All right, everyone, we are back for part 2 of the Shining Light on Holistic Healing Roundtable discussion. I've got all of these beautiful, amazing, empowered leaders in light here to serve their amazing expertise, their amazing gifts, and their intelligence, their knowledge on holistic health and healing. And of course, I am your host, Rissa Vibes, aka Readings by Rissa, and this event is really so exciting for me to bring forth. I want to start by sharing again my intentions for this event. If you didn't get to see part 1, that way you really all just take a little bit of a time to center and connect to what we're all here for. A big intention that I have for this event and this discussion is to open the door to holistic healing for the world, and for all of those of you who have really just not explored holistic healing in your life or just don't even know what it is. This is your ability to tap into what holistic healing is. And it is this embodiment of mind, body, spirit, and emotional healing, well-being, and balance. And then another intention I have is to provide awareness and opportunity for all of you watching, as well as everybody on the call, to heal themselves and to help heal others through holistic healing, through this natural form of consciously focusing on well-being. And then, of course, we're shining light on diversity of holistic healing by introducing so many different modalities of this amazing industry and allowing you to really pick and choose what most resonates with you. And then, of course, we're raising consciousness, as I always am on this channel, and always a big part of my soul mission, as all of these other leaders as well. Just being able to raise the consciousness of humanity, raise the vibration of humanity, and give all of ourselves the opportunity to connect to our most purest positive potential. And then, of course, finally, I really just wanted to empower so many healers that I know personally and professionally that are on this call that are doing amazing work in the field of holistic healing and in the world. So thank you, all of my leaders of light here, for joining. Let's go ahead and start with just a quick introduction of everybody, so that all of you who didn't get a chance to watch part 1 yet gets a chance to know everybody here on this call. I first want to introduce Monique, who is the owner of In This Moment Massage and Sound Therapy. She is a licensed massage therapist of over 11 years, as well as a sound practitioner certified since 2019. And she offers group meditations and gatherings that ignite the innate wisdom within. Thank you so much, Monique, for being here. We also have Ksenia, who is an energy worker, breathwork facilitator, and a shamanic practitioner who uses ancient techniques and modern methods to connect people with themselves and the divine. She is also the creatress of Abundance Space, which is a yoga and meditation space for well-being. And I'd also like to introduce Brian, who is a serial entrepreneur, owner of a supplement company, Gone Green, as well as a podcast host by the handle of The Real Spiritual Gangsters on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you for being here as well. And then I would love to announce and introduce Molly into this call as well. She is a holistic health practitioner and coach who uses several healing modalities such as crystal Reiki therapy, intuitive assessment, aromatherapy, and her 9 years background in clinical nursing to help people recognize their power of their mind-body connection. Thank you so much, Molly, for being here as well. And then finally, I would like to introduce Chad to the call and roundtable discussion. He is a clinical mental health therapist in training, a former collegiate athlete, a poet, a son, a brother, a lover, and a smooth shaman undergoing initiation. Thank you for being here, Chad. And finally, like I said, I'm your host, Rissa Vibes, aka Readings by Rissa. I am a professional intuitive and intuitive coach. I'm also a channel of love and light and a Reiki healer and holder of space for community events like this one here. I'm so excited to be bringing this forward as your host and moderator for this roundtable. Let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm super excited to continue this conversation that we've already been building so beautifully on since part 1. So I want to start with the first question, and these questions for this part are going to be referring to outer work, the importance of holistic healing in regards to our external service to the world, our external environment, the way the collective is healing holistically as well. So let's dive into the first question. All right. First question is asked by Molly. And the question is, when thinking of the health of our culture, of our collective, in your opinion, what's missing? Where are the gaps? Whoever wants to jump in on this first, go for it. What is missing in our culture and collective for our health?
I'll jump in. For me, I feel like the biggest, the gap is between mind, body, and spirit. The separation right there, you know, they are one and the same. The health of your mental health, your spiritual health, your emotional health is just as important as your physical health.
Yeah, I love that. And so many people do kind of separate it or ignore one or the other, and just this ability to recognize what's missing in, you know, the collective that you're in, the community you're in, the world, and what's missing within yourself, and how can we fill that void? Love that. Whoever wants to go next, go for it. I can read the question again too if you guys need me to.
I can hop in real quick. Just as someone training to be a clinical mental health therapist, just as a counselor, for me, I see a huge gap for, especially I work with a lot of the youth, and the lack of understanding of emotions, and even from their parents not understanding what emotions truly are, what they can represent. We spoke a little bit about it briefly in part one, so I highly recommend you go back and review that part if you have not already. But regarding the separation between the system and how the system pushes pharmaceuticals and pushes processed foods and things that, although you can argue that they have the right intentions, you can argue that perhaps, but there's just such a gap between the understanding of emotional health and how many different ways there are to work with that. And I feel like I see that on a day-to-day basis, and whether people are ignoring their emotional health or not taking the signs that your emotions can tip you to, you know, whether feeling good and why you feel good, or feeling bad and why you feel bad. You know, and are there many different, you know, gambits of emotions that run, there are many different emotions that run the gambit in between. So I would say definitely, just from my own expertise, I see a huge gap in the emotional health, and as it relates to mood disorders and the many different ways you can work with those outside of pharmaceuticals and what the system may push you to do. So.
Yeah, definitely something missing. Go ahead, Molly.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that because I pose this question because I feel like a huge reason that I transitioned from the clinical nursing career the career path that I was on, and into more of the holistic healing piece of health care, really. I mean, it is healthcare. I know we don't like to think of it as healthcare a lot of times, but it is because I saw these gaps. And I love what you touched on, Chad, about a lot of times and I think somebody else said this in part one too, so I'm going to agree with Chad. Go back and watch that part if you haven't already. But we can really have this fixing energy in the way that our healthcare system is set up, and that fixing energy really disempowers people and really, you know, creates a disconnect for them. And so I feel like when we think about the health of our culture, one of the huge pieces that's missing is like intergenerational care. Like we are in spaces with people that are our same age, our same experience in life a lot of times. And it's like, and that's not, there's a lot of cultures out there that, it's like multi-generational families, and there's obviously there are families like that in our country as well, but it's just not as common, and it's just not as highly honored or regarded. I feel like that's a huge piece, because it's like that wisdom being passed from generation to generation to generation. I think that there's a huge connection in how people heal in that wisdom, like passing down. And I think that's a big piece missing, but I also agree with Monique in as far as the connection between the mind and the body, and our body is not just a body. And Brian touched on this in part 1 too, like everything is interconnected. And I think that's a huge, like, probably if I would say like the main root of what's missing is that piece, the true interconnectedness of everything in our body, in our environment, in our lives, in our emotions. And we can't separate those things. And our culture has separated that. We're like, we have Western medicine over here, and then we have alternative medicine over. Even the way they call it alternative, it's like, come on, guys, like, this isn't an alternative. Like, this is potent.
The original.
Medicine. Exactly. This is like the original. How can you call this an alternative? But it's like potent medicine, and we can't, like, the language that we use even around it really does discount a lot of it's purposeful, right? It's purposeful. It's purposeful disempowerment. So I think those are some of the gaps, some of the things that are missing if we think of health in our culture as a whole.
Yeah, I want to piggyback, and then I'll let you go, Ksenia, too, because that really hit me in a deep way with the way you said, you know, our connection to our ancestors, our connection to our traditions, our connection to our true, you know, roots in the wisdom of our genes and our lineage that we're connected to, and in our bloodline and our DNA. And I know as a Black woman and a biracial Black woman in America, I am very, I've had a very strong journey in this. And I feel like for me, I've very much been disconnected from my roots because I don't know my roots. And I know we even talked about this in the first Shining Light event, Shining Light on Revolution, when we were talking about, you know, all of the racial duality that was happening in the world in June and still going on, absolutely. But we covered it in that Shining Light on Revolution on June 21st. And if you guys want to go back to watch that, there is a playlist, Shining Light on Revolution, right here on this YouTube channel. You can go and watch all of the things, just like you'll be able to do with this amazing Shining Light on holistic healing. But for me, we touched on this. We talked about how, you know, a lot of people, POC healers and people in the world, and you know, just people who are already doing the deep work of healing, and even people who aren't, just don't have as much connection to their heritage, to their, you know, DNA, to their bloodline, to their lineage. They don't have those connections, you know, whether they were ripped from us in our ancestral line due to slavery or other oppressive things that happened socioeconomically or politically, to whatever culture you're connected to. A lot of us are missing that piece. And I love that you mentioned that. And I think that that's huge. And my encouragement to everybody watching and everybody on the call, if you haven't journeyed into your lineage, is to start digging, whether it's asking the elders in your family, whether it's you know, taking the DNA test, which I know is super controversial. Like, trust me, I haven't decided if I want to do that yet either. But like, if it's something that you feel called to do, then do that. If you really want to know, you know, your lineage. And if you don't know, maybe you're adopted or whatnot, connect spiritually, ask your guides, call on your ancestors. I know Ksenia is such a powerful shaman in that way with her work with ancestors, and she's taught me a lot about that as well. And Chad as well works with his ancestors in a spiritual way, calling them forth, and I do now too. And so when we do that, we do start to activate this knowledge of the gaps in our culture, the gaps in our awareness of our culture and our lineage, and also the gaps in healing that need to be filled so that we can really feel our full selves. You know, the ancestral wounds that we need to clear, the ancestral wisdom that we want to activate, the ancestral gifts of our people. And being able to tap into that, whatever culture, whatever nationality, whatever ethnicity you are, it's important to salvage that connection to tradition, whatever you're rooted in. So I love, love, love that, Molly. Thank you. And go ahead, Ksenia. I know you're next on share.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I just love where this conversation is going. I work closely with my ancestors. I think that a lot of times when people think about working with spirit guides, it seems very out there. You're like, what, who? I don't feel anyone. Well, guess what? We all have ancestors. We all come from a lineage. We all come from somewhere. So the ancestors are a beautiful to start your own work. There's deep medicine within each lineage, literally each lineage. And like Rissa said, if you don't know your family, if you don't know where you came from, if you were adopted, etc., it doesn't matter, because you can connect on a spiritual level. For me, something that helped me really connect with my ancestors is the practice of offerings. So even just leaving some food they might enjoy for them, leaving a cup of tea for them, etc. Just that recognition, that acknowledgement. I am here because of you, because you survived, because of the hardships you endured, because of everything you went through to assure that I am here alive today. So just that acknowledgement, just that recognition is so powerful when it comes to working with the ancestors. Gosh, I could just go on this topic for forever, but something else that I wanted to touch on too, as about, we were talking about the question, is education. I feel like there is so much education missing, education about right, alternative methods, education about food, education about spirituality, education about our connection to our bodies as women, as men. Rites, right? Sacred rites, initiations. There's so many things that are missing. And I really do think a lot of it starts with education. And unfortunately, like Molly said, a lot of it was passed down through our lineage. A lot of it was passed down through our heritage. And, with all of today's modern distractions, with everything going on, there's so many things vying for our attention. So a lot of those ancestral ways have fallen by the wayside, but we can pick them up at any time we want. Something else I want to touch on that is not just a disconnect from our lineage, but also a disconnect from the land that we live on. A lot of times the exact land that we live on has all the medicine we need for exactly what we're going through. If you were drawn to the desert, there's a reason you were drawn to the desert. If you were drawn to the forest, there's a reason. There's plants, there's herbs, there's berries, there's things there that are deep medicine for you. And a lot of us have lost these ways, have lost working with the plants in this way. A lot of it occurs too, right? We move, we get disconnected. I was born in Russia, right? And all of a sudden here I am in a completely different country. We don't know the plants and the herbs that grow by these rivers. We don't know, we don't take the same path that we took every day. And we know, what herb to use if you get a scrape or a cut, what you can lay against your skin to stop that bleeding. We get disconnected. And so many of us now with modern world, it's beautiful, right? We can get up and go live in Dubai, right, if we want, but we don't have that same connection to the land. And it takes years, truly years, to cultivate that understanding, to cultivate that knowledge. And a lot of people don't really care to either. So as people are moving from city to city, from area to country to country, area to area, I think there is a bit of that disconnect with the land that we live on, and the magic that's available to us, both in the physical, right, through the plants and the trees and the water that is there, and also the spiritual, because each land has a different medicine, has that different frequency, that different vibration. So many people I've spoken to over the last 2 years as I moved out here are like, yeah, I just came to the desert and I didn't know why, I was just drawn to it, right? Well, it's no mistake that all of us ended up exactly where. And so these are things that, for anyone watching this, you can ask yourself, wow, like, where am I living right now? What is the medicine for me here? Why am I living here? Or even just walking out into your own yard and being like, what are these local plants, right? With Google, we have so much information. Like, I urge everyone to go into your yard or your neighborhood and identify at least 3 plants that you just see abundantly everywhere, and look them up. Look up their properties, look up their characteristics, and look up their energetic characteristics too, because chances are there's something that is in your neighborhood that's deep medicine for you.
So true. Oh, I love everything about that. Thank you so much for that share, Ksenia. Who else wants to briefly talk about what's missing in our culture in regards to healing? And then we'll get to the next question.
I know I already went, but really quick. I think it's also so important to connect to the ancestors of the land that you live on, right? So I love that you brought this, Ksenia, and the reality is like we're all living on stolen land right now. And so connecting to that, to the ancestral, to the people who are the ancestors of the land, has been a really powerful practice for me. So there's a map that you can go to online and you can put your address in and they can tell you, it tells you, it's like, I can't remember I think it's through the state of California, but it basically, they've mapped out like basically all of North America. And you can put your address in and you can find out who the indigenous people groups are. That the land that you live on, right? And I think that's really important to honor that and to acknowledge the history of the land that you live on, because we like to claim things like that's like the colonial way, right? It's like, this is my house, my land. It's like, it's not. We can't own the earth. Like, she is not ownable, but we do that. And so I think it's really powerful in our healing journey to acknowledge that the people, even if they're not our ancestors, but the people who came before us, and
the layers of the land.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So true to connect both of those. Does anybody want to share? Anybody else want to share on this question before we move on to the next one? We spent a little time on this one, so I want to. If anybody has anything pressing, feel free. No? You guys good? You want to move on to the next one? Let's do it. Okay. All right, this next one is a question from Brian. And the question is, what have you found to be the deepest truth about what's going on this planet right now? Such a external collective focus on really where we're at right now and what is the deepest truth. And feel free to share. Whoever was pressed to share, if you don't feel like sharing on this question, no worries. But go ahead and share, whoever wants.
I would love to share on this question. So actually, as everyone said in their questions, I didn't really look them over or anything like that. But this question, for some reason, I did notice, and it stuck out in my mind even yesterday. And I had a shamanic session with one of my longtime clients today, and something just wild came through. So I wanted to share it for anyone, because the message was to be shared actually today. So it was no mistake that the session occurred today. So just as a precursor, I don't know how comfortable everyone is with the subject matter. We are at Rissa's roundtable. I know she is a star seed. I know she's very comfortable in extraterrestrial conversations. So I'm going to go ahead and take that as a green light. And for anyone watching this as a recording or watching this later, take what resonates, don't take what doesn't. If you would have told me this maybe even 3-4 years ago, I would have said, yeah, okay, whatever. Anyways, but what came through to me in the session is that as I tuned in, I do a lot of shamanic work. Normally it's more with the animals, with the ancestors, things like that. Lately, a lot of star being energy has been coming through. And when I tuned in with my client today, the star beings were everywhere. I mean, like, I could see the grid of the world and they were just like everywhere. So many. I've never seen anything like that when I've connected. Even right now, I'm getting chills all over my whole body talking about it. I've never seen anything quite like that before, to the point where it like took me some time. It was so much energy moving through. I couldn't even speak for a few minutes. So anyways, and so I asked them, I was like, what's going on? Why is everyone down here? What is happening? Why is everyone down here? And what they showed me is that there was actually about to be, right prior to as everything started unfolding, a crime against humanity, a crime against humans, a crime against our bodies, our cells, our cellular makeups were about to get changed. And so I know it's a lot to wrap your head around. Obviously, it's crazy. And so, but what happened was this was against universal law, is what they said. This was not to be tampered with. And so really they came down to provide their assistance in ensuring that this does not happen. So in some ways, well, I believe through my shamanic work that the galactic energies have been helping planet Earth and have been helping and continuing with our evolution and really assisting humans where we ourselves have failed through many times. But that's what they were showing. They were showing that they're here to ensure that that did not happen, that that timeline did not occur. And that's what they showed me. And the message that they had, I said, okay, well, that's a lot to take in. What is the message, right? What can we do? And they said that release any fear, right? Release any fear around any connection with extraterrestrial energies, around any connection with anything that's going on right now, to release any fear and just to trust in everything that is unfolding. Something else that they showed me, I'm not sure to be shared or not, but they did show that they are working with like brilliant scientists. They're working with brilliant people really high up, like they're having direct connection, direct communication with people all throughout the world, really to, in some ways, to save humanity and to save this planet that we're currently living on, and everything that's kind of occurred to it. So that's the message. The message is of faith. It's to trust and to release any fear around that. So for anyone watching, I'm glad I'm reaching like a larger audience with this message through YouTube. It's not something I would normally share, but like I said, they were very, very like, you must share this tonight. I was like, ooh. They're like, no, this is to be shared. And that's when I realized that that is the question through which that I needed to share it. So thank you for asking that, Brian.
Yay, Galactics. Thank you, Ksenia, for bringing that forward. Those are my homies. So I appreciate that they brought a special message just for this roundtable. That makes me super excited. All right, who else wants to tap into this, this question?
So I just have something really brief to say to piggyback off kind of what Ksenia was saying. I am reading this book that I actually got from Ksenia, excuse me, really divinely. My guides told me that I needed the book. I didn't even see the title of the book, but I'm like, all right, I guess I need that book. So I got it from Ksenia, and it's called Remember, RE-member. And it's Remember, a handbook for human evolution. And it touches on, like, when you were talking, Ksenia, I almost felt like I was in a vertigo moment, thinking it was very strange. But I do believe that book is a major truth that exists right now. That book reveals a lot of truth. And I'll say it again, Remember, handbook for human evolution. I do believe that could be a great resource for people right now.
Love that. And just to touch on your vertigo feeling, that's definitely the galactic energy. Anybody watching who's feeling that too? Galactic energy. It's intense. Just breathe through it. It's going to be okay.
So I'll hop in briefly real quick. Won't take up too much time, but for me, what I feel like is happening to the mass collective, I've touched on briefly, I think, in a live that myself and Rissa have done maybe like a month or two ago, but I see this as a bit of a rebalancing. I feel like as a world, we have focused and put so much intention on yang, on the yang, on the masculine, on the force, on imposing our will on everything that we can. And although we've seen innovation, we've done things, it's not that there's anything inherently wrong with that, but the subversion and the denial of that innate yin that is a part of the world has, what I feel like what we're seeing now is a forced rebalancing. So with the yang energy, with COVID, that I don't care how much of a will you want to impart on things, you're gonna have to stop and sit back and reevaluate some things. And we've all seen that. And whether that's in your home, as we talked a little bit about in the again in the first part, whether you Molly touched on in the first part about having to revisit your home and revisit what's going on in your home, and reevaluate what you should do, and also on a global scale, and businesses and industries, everything's changing. Zoom is everybody's best friend or worst enemy, because we're all using it so often now. But I say all that to say, again, just going back to my original point, I see it as a forced rebalancing. The world, Mother Nature, Mother Earth, she knows what we need. And no matter how much of imprint that we try to embark upon her, she's gonna rebalance things out. And I feel like that's what we're seeing currently. So.
Yep, I can definitely get behind that for sure. Definitely a lot of masculine imbalance and needing the feminine to rise and be balanced out for sure. All right, Molly or Brian, feel free to share your answer to what you found is most truthful. And then the last question you guys will go over, we'll still go over, I'm gonna go ahead and merge the last two questions into one because I recognize I can do that. So go ahead, whoever wants to share for this one, and then we'll get to the last question.
I'll share. Oh, sorry, Brian.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I feel like the last time I spoke right after Chad too, because I feel like I connect to this, to what you shared as well, Chad, about the rebound and like how, and the initial question was, what is the deepest truth, right? And it's like, part of me is like, the deepest truth is we don't know anything. Like it's all unknown, right? Like we thought we knew. We thought we knew. We're like, it's okay. We're going to be fine. We're going to, I don't know, join the Paris climate or the Paris, Accords again, and we're going to be okay, right? Like it's like, but the reality is it's like, we don't know. Like we really just don't know. And I think that I touched on this last time in the part one of like, I think that with this rebound, like you were talking about, Chad, we get to sit in the uncomfortability of the fact that we don't know. Like the unknown is very real. I just listened to this episode of a podcast called On Being. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but if you haven't, go check it out. But the episode was called When Things Fall Apart, and it was based on Pema Chodron's book, When Things Fall Apart. And one of the things they talked about was a line in the book, and the line says, abandon hope. And when I first heard that, I was like, wait a second, this is really it's like contradicting itself of everything I know, right? But it was just so beautiful as she was talking about it. And she was just basically saying, like, when things fall apart, like we think in this this yang energy, like we've got to fix it, right? Like we have to, make it all, like we have to find a solution. And the way she was talking about things falling apart, she's like, actually, when you really sit and think about that, like things fall apart so that they can come back together. And then things fall apart so that they can come back together. And that is like our life, right? Like things fall apart, they come back together. Things fall apart, they come back together. And I heard a lot of that in your share, Chad, of like this rebound. It's like, the earth is like billions of years old. Like things have fallen apart and come back together, and fallen apart and come back together. And I kind of feel like we're just in that right now. And that deepest truth, I guess, that I've been sitting with is just really the depths of the unknown and the comedy that humans really do think they know. Because we don't.
We don't. For our last question, which will be very brief because we've extended this a little longer than I expected, but that's okay because we got so much good stuff out of it. But I want to just have us all share with like 1 to 2 words, like just a nice like rapid fire answer to this question of how we can elevate the collective vibration through any resources that we've had for our own healing in our journeys, internally or externally, whatever is really called for you to share for our last little answer for this part 2 of the roundtable. So how can we elevate the collective vibration? Quick, brief answers, please. My quick and brief answer, I'll say, is just love. Just love, 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 love. Add more love into everything you do, into everything you think about, into everything you feel. How can you access more vibration of love? Because to me, that is the highest vibrational force in the world, and something that's truly helped me and has been a resource for me in my healing, whether it's self-love or loving my experience unconditionally, or loving the people around me for what they do and bring for me in my world, and even loving struggle, loving contrast, loving things that are just not always comfortable, but recognizing the purpose for them and shining love on that. That's my answer.
My answer would be community. Find yourself a community, your tribe, your spirit tribe, and collaborate with your community to raise your the conscious vibration, and just to raise your outreach. People that, you know, the more people you can collaborate with, the more people you can reach your audience.
Love that.
I'll popcorn real quick. So some things that come to my mind are water. Make sure you're drinking enough water. So easy. Sunshine. Make sure you're not just in the house on your computer or on your phone all the time. Go out, get some sunshine. Really being in nature, that always elevates my vibration. I think it's something as a society we can really lack. Going outside, getting some sun, swimming in a creek, putting your feet in the water, laying on the earth. Joy, right? Like you said, love goes hand in hand with joy. Like, I think so many times the world can feel so heavy, right? And we can just really feel burdened down by everything going on and all the contrasting opinions and the media and our family, sometimes even, etc. But when we can return to that place of joy, right? That just elevates everyone around us. It elevates our life immediately. And I really think it works closely with that love too. So that's worked for me really well. So I recommend to try it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ksenia. Who's next?
Mine will be brief as well. I'm going to say, do you, whatever doing you is, do it. Don't do what you think you're supposed to do. Do what you want to do. I know that's hard to do for us all, but do it. And I'm going to piggyback off Brian because he's dropped a lot of knowledge. And do your Googles, do your research, do your Googles. Yeah, so do you and do your Googles. All right.
Love that.
Yeah, I would definitely say surrounding yourself with community is the number one way I feel you can elevate the collective vibration, and just continuing to, I guess the word open comes to me. Just opening yourself up to possibility, even if you don't know what that is yet. That's okay. I think that we first have to not believe necessarily, but we first have to open to the idea that healing's even possible for us. And I think that's the first step of elevating your vibration, is opening to the idea that this life could be joy, love, everything that you just shared, and really knowing inside of yourself that you are worthy of that.
Yes, yes, yes. Love that. All right, go for it, Brian. Close this out.
Well, so the shortcuts are coffee and chocolate. That's just like you're instantly in a higher frequency and feel better. Obviously nature, just like the most nature you can possibly get, because the more I'm in nature, the higher my frequency is. I can just feel, it's crazy when you go into nature and you come back into the matrix, like you can just feel like, what the hell are we living in? It's so crazy once you get totally connected to nature. But the like great tool that I've kind of forgot about and have recently rediscovered is just how powerful fasting is. Like, and actually the combination of fasting and nature, or fasting and travel. I've noticed that if I fast when I travel, it's like, I don't know, I just become super intuitive and heightened, and like my whole energy field just gets so much higher. And I just kind of live on the prana of all the new experiences I'm having and all the new scenery I'm seeing. So to me, that's been like the highest frequency stuff I've found, is just, you know, a lot of fasting and traveling. And when you don't have that, a lot of coffee and chocolate and nature.
Yeah, love it. And then the last thing I'll share to just close us out is any form of holistic healing that you all have heard from this roundtable discussion, whether it be in part 1 or part 2, or whatever healing modality you got to experience in this entire event from all of these amazing leaders of light. These are the ways to raise your vibration and the ways to raise the consciousness in humanity as a whole. The more we tap into these holistic healing modalities and the idea of holistic healing and the knowledge behind it, the natural way that our body, our mind, our spirit, our emotions want to heal and can heal, then the more we're able to truly affect the world's vibration in that positive way as well. So I encourage all of you to just keep tapping into this content, to reach out to any of these leaders of light that you feel resonant with. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity real quick to just share their social media handles. I'll also put these in the description of both of these roundtable videos, as well as the segments that each of these amazing leaders in light host in this event. And before I give them the floor to share that social media platform information, I just want to thank all of you, not just the leaders of light here on this call that have taken the time and energy to provide such amazing expertise, knowledge, and wisdom, but also all of you who have stayed tuned and connected to this call, to this event, to this roundtable discussion, and for really just opening yourselves up to receiving new knowledge, new awareness, or even remembering knowledge that you've already had within yourself. I'm so proud of you for connecting on this amazing event, and I encourage you to share it with anybody else that you feel will resonate and benefit from all of this info. All right, so you all know where you can find me, Rissa Vibes, aka Readings by Rissa, right here on YouTube, at Readings by Rissa on Instagram and Facebook. All right, I'm going to popcorn to Brian. Tell us where we can find you on social media.
Real Spiritual Gangsters with an S, and then I have a backup, which is Real Spiritual Gangsters singular. So either one on any social media platform.
Beautiful, thank you. Go ahead, Monique, how can we find you on social media platforms?
All right, you can find me at In This Moment Therapy on Instagram and Facebook.
Beautiful, thank you. Go ahead, Kusenia, where can we find you on social media?
All right, so I am on Instagram and Facebook. It's at Abundant Space, so not Abundance Space. It's with a T, Abundant Space. And also my website is abundantspaceforall.com. If you resonated with the breath work, me talking about that, if you resonated with the shamanic healing bit, I do virtual one-on-one sessions with anyone, anywhere in the world. So just reach out. You can book directly through my site.
Beautiful. Go ahead, Chad, where can we find you on social media platforms?
Via Instagram, I have 2 pages, at I am Chad, CHADGC, then also at Smooth Shaman. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Molly, go ahead, close us out with your social media platforms.
You can find me at Molly and Odell. And yeah, if you're looking for a community, or you need a group to go to, or you're just looking for some space to be held for you, I definitely encourage you to DM me on my Instagram. I have a website too, but most of my communication is through Instagram or email, but I'm not going to share that here. Just Instagram.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And again, thank you everybody for joining this part 2 roundtable discussion. If you didn't get a chance to watch part 1, go back and watch it. You're going to get tons of goodies of information in there as well. And thank you again to all my leaders of light for being so amazing on this call and sharing your gifts. I appreciate all of you. We'll see you later.